So I'm going to tell you guys about black holes. And let me adjust the camera. Just to preface everything, yes, I am making this video so I seem smart. That's the only reason, but it is an interesting subject. Okay, so to learn a little bit and to understand what black holes are, we need to go and understand what escape velocity is. So let's just say we have two objects, and we can just assume these are planets that are the same mass. But one planet is really big and the other one is small, but they have the same mass. So this one is much denser than this object. Got it? Okay. So Einstein had a theory that's probably correct. That I don't really understand Einstein's theories because I'm not that smart. But basically, he said that the fabric of space bends, and that's what causes gravity. So gravity, the fabric of space bends. That's a hard concept to even understand, but let me make an analogy. Let's say I held out a bed sheet like this, and then somebody else on the other side was holding out a bed sheet. And you put a ball, let's just say a basketball, in the middle of that bed sheet. So let's just say this is the basketball. The bed sheet would look like this, right? It would kind of cave in for the ball. Okay? So there would be like a little swale, and then, not creating a hole, but you know what I'm talking about, creating like a little swale in the bed sheet. Okay, so now let's say we had a ball that was much smaller. Well, if we put that in the middle of the bed sheet, we're going to get a real deep hole like that, a real sharp hill. Okay, so if we were a person on this planet and a person on this planet, and you wanted to escape the gravitational pull of the planet you're on, you need a certain speed to get away from that planet. And the speed for this planet, counterintuitively, is slower than the speed to escape this one, even though this one's smaller. The reason is, well, if you're on this planet, you don't have to go that far uphill to get out, right? Obviously, that's definitely not what actually happens, but just stick with me. So you don't quite have to get that much uphill to get out of this one. But if you're on this planet, you gotta go way uphill, way uphill, way uphill, way uphill, and then you're out. So you need a lot more velocity to get out of a smaller planet than a bigger planet if we assume the mass is the same. Okay, so I hope I explained that pretty well. Now, how does this pertain to black holes? Okay, so when a star is about to die, it expands and then it crunches down into a very, very small, not very small, but a very dense and massive object. And when I say massive, I mean high mass, not, huge like that. I mean high mass. So when the star dies, most of the time it becomes a dwarf star, a neutron star, but sometimes if the star is massive enough and has enough mass that it condenses down into a really dense point, you create a black hole. But how do we know, when do we know it's a black hole? Well, I'll tell you. We know it's a black hole the moment that light cannot escape from the object. So this hill is so deep and small and steep that not even light can get out. Light can't get out of this, okay? So that's when we know it's a black hole. There's nothing that can go faster than the speed of light. So if nothing can go faster than the speed of light, nothing can escape from a black hole. All right, so got through that pretty well. So now there's a certain point with a black hole that there's a point of no return, basically. And we call this the event horizon, okay? The event horizon. So let's just say that's our black hole. We don't really know what it looks like. It's probably black in the hole, but there's only been one picture taken of a black hole. Let's just assume that's what it looks like. And here we have a point in space. There's nothing special about it. It's just a certain point called the event horizon. And the event horizon is the point where not even light can escape. right? And that might sound kind of confusing because I already said that, but essentially, if light beams are traveling out here, they can get away, okay? But if they're in here, they can't get out, okay? So that's a certain point where even if you're a light photon, you're not getting away from this black hole. Now maybe, let's say if you were traveling in a rocket ship that goes 1,000 miles per hour, your event horizon would be out here, right? Be way out here. Because you're gonna have to go real fast if you get in here to get away from that black hole. But essentially the event horizon is a certain point where you cannot get out of the black hole. Okay, and then, this is the crazy part, there's another point in the black hole where it's not even a point, it's like a two-dimensional, one-dimensional, zero-dimensional point in space where all the mass condenses, and that is an infinitely dense point because all the mass of everything going into this black hole goes straight into that point, and that is called the singularity. Not really too familiar with the singularity, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I don't want to seem dumb. Just kidding. I simply don't know too much about that subject. Look up singularity. Okay. So what would happen if you went into a black hole? Well, that's really interesting. Basically, if you went into a black hole, you would start to see yourself because the gravity of a black hole is so strong that light photons begin to orbit the black hole. So I would be looking straight ahead and I could see the back of my head because the light photon went around the black hole and it came back to me. I could look to the side and I would see myself. I could look to the right and I would see myself. I could turn around and there I am. Light begins orbiting the black hole because it is so massive. So that's a really cool thing. Another thing is that as you begin to go in the black hole, you're going to become a spaghetti, and that's called spaghettification. And basically your body is going to get stretched out and stretched out and stretched out and stretched out, and then eventually you explode and die. But essentially, that's your last moment when you're going into a black hole. So the gravitational pull is so strong that you, and then you explode and die. So that's about all you would experience going in. Now, obviously we have no idea what would actually happens, but this is all theoretical. You could also, if you're going into a black hole, look around and the stars would start moving faster around you, and you would see people, if you could see, your friends that are past their past their event horizon, you could see them, being normal, and then they would start speeding up and speeding up and speeding up and speeding up because the gravity is so massive in the black hole that time dilation, basically, interstellar, time goes really fast for them, but not for you. But in the real universe, you're probably dying. So you're not going to be able to go in the black hole and then come back out like Matthew McConaughey did. But anyway, we don't know though. It's possible. So what else? Let's say I'm looking down on my friend going into the black hole. I would see my friend going into the black hole, and it would look like he's going slower and slower and slower and slower and slower and slower, and then he'd stop, and he'd be like a freeze frame, like that, right? So once you see your friend past the event horizon, he will be frozen, or look like he's frozen, because the light from his body is no longer reaching your eyes. It's stuck there. He's in a point where the light from his body, it's not escaping the black hole, thus not getting to your eyes. And then that light that you're looking at would just slowly fade away, and that'd be the last time you ever saw your friend. So that's an interesting subject. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about it, but I just wanted to explain it because I think it's interesting, and I want to look smart and sound smart.